All right. We are now live for the return stream of Gamers Talking. For those who don't know, new to this, we used to do this little show every year up until 2019 when life and other things got in the way. But it was always where we talked about gaming and such from a consumer point of view occasionally. And with me, I've got two of my regular cohorts. First of all, Peter.
Hello.
And of course, Mr. Wombat.
Good morning.
One person I did hope to have with us today was our buddy Scott, but unfortunately he's been very, very ill this year and just simply didn't have the voice to come on the stream. So, Scott, I miss you, buddy, and I hope to have you back one day when all is well. All right. To talk about gaming this year, first we're going to focus on some of the topics, a couple of stories that happened in the gaming world which are worth attention, and then to go into some of the games that released. But the first topic was one which pretty much set the gaming world on fire when everyone realized what was going on, and that was Sweet Baby Inc. And if I'm not mistaken, guys, a lot of this came to the forefront when the Steam group, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, started talking about these games and the infestation of them.
That's part of it, is that, again, you had a guy, Cabrutus, who is a consumer, and said, well, you know what? It should be entirely within the consumer's realm to know whether these diversity DEI companies are involved in game development because, the gaming community notices a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Usually DEI consultants involved, game will be shit. So they thought, you know what? He thought, you know what? We need just a list, just so consumers can make an informed decision.
Yep.
Well, Sweet Baby and their mates really didn't like that and proceeded to draw a whole heap of attention. So the good old Streisand effect kicked in. And yeah, it kind of kicked off a whole kerfuffle.
Yeah. I mean, they even tried to get this guy's account banned from Steam and Twitter, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, obviously for those watching. Sorry, carry on, Peter.
Yeah, that added to the Streisand effect because people immediately went, so why are you so mad and what's this guy said that's basically driven you to be absolute howler monkeys like this of going after him 10 ways from Sunday? Curious.
And the fact that Sweet Baby was then scrubbing details off their own page, but if you're proud of this work, where's the problem, right? See, again, the one behind Sweet Baby Inc. is bloody Sarkeesian 2.0 as far as I'm concerned. It's another malignant narcissist.
And that also helped people become aware of all the other consulting companies of their ilk that are all basically doing the same thing as previous stuff at the whole, like with the journalists, like backpatting, sharing each other's work and ensuring each other gets jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously sharing the screen of the website now because this is one here, Alan Wake 2, which wound me up because I was a fan of the first game. And in obviously Alan Wake 2, you don't see him himself till about halfway through. And before that, you're playing as this character. I can't remember her name, but she appeared in another game by the same developer where she's white and now she's suddenly black. And it's like, that's a bit of a continuity issue, isn't it? And even when she's walking into this crime scene at the beginning of the game, which is supposed to be scary and whatever else, she takes a moment to phone her daughter and have a conversation as she's walking into it. And I think you think, okay, then. And then later on in the game, she's doing her own autopsy. So it's like, okay, so she's a girl boss. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And that killed any interest I had in the game, especially finding out, like I said, Wake doesn't appear till halfway through.
The person the game is literally named after and everyone's coming back for.
Yeah. It's like, well, hang on a minute. And also, I don't even... Yeah, it annoyed the hell out of me. But also, you see the effect it had on some of the other games they were involved in, one of which we'll be talking about later on. But yeah, it wisened people up a little bit, didn't it?
Well, it confirmed what everyone, again, a lot of the community was already talking about, and again, a lot of it, it's just nice to go because we've had the mainstream, the gaming press, and the rest of it gaslighting us over and over and saying, "Oh no, this isn't happening, this isn't happening," and I'm like, "Oh no, actually, we have now had documentary evidence that it is happening."
Yeah.
So people have gone, great, we can save our money. Because it gives us a wonderful, this is pattern recognition for us now. It's just like, oh, you lot are involved. Okay, we know it's going to be, especially if you like narrative-driven games, we know it's going to be terrible and not worth our money.
Yeah. And it was also noticed by a few people that there's also the games that these folks are involved in. There's this weird trend of, I'll be polite about it, toning down the looks of the female characters.
Oh, don't be polite.
Well,
They're not.
Okay, Peter.
No,
your view on this?
Yeah.
It's purposeful. They're purposely making these women not even androgynous, but purposely bordering on ugly to actually ugly. Because how dare anyone, so man, woman, whatever else, look at a woman and go, oh, she's pretty. Ooh, oh, disgusting. Male gaze.
There's also an additional element to that is they keep hiring art directors who have, to be kind, have a perception processing disorder.
Oh, don't be kind.
Well, again, I don't want to get us kicked off various to get us cancelled. But to be perfectly honest, yes, they are hiring people who are trans. People who are trans have a perception processing disorder, right? They have difficulty perceiving male and female. So they have been making all these female characters look like men.
Also, to add to that, very obviously self-obsessed.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I struggle to sort of make sense of it. So the best thing that I do, and I think probably others can do with this stuff, is don't buy these games on day one. Take your time and see what's said about them first.
And also, don't believe the mainstream media about it.
Well, what's left of them anyway.
It's like, go to your own sources and basically don't stick to just one. Cross-reference multiple, even some that you don't like very much. Give them a chance to see what they say, pile it all together, and then make a decision.
Yeah.
Well, again, the one of the obvious things is to look at nowadays the trailers can be a giveaway if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
For example, we just had the trailer drop for the new Witcher game.
I was wondering if you were going to mention this.
I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm not surprised because again, you've seen that CD Projekt Red, because they went public in terms of they're trading their shares. They got subject to all the DEI crap, and they've now opened up a studio in Boston. And looking at who was recruiting for that studio in Boston, it told me everything I needed to know. But
for those who don't know who was recruiting,
there's a lot of rainbows. Right, look at the ad. There's this, very, 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 very dwarf-like, short, stocky, short hair, but she had a lot of rainbows in her background.
Oh dear.
So, but the trailer just came out. Yeah, and the trailer came out, and immediately I've just gone, right. So they've Mary sued her. Right, hang on. Siri using a whole heap of stuff that only witches could do if they'd been through in the law. There's the trial of the grasses, which is essentially how they mutate witches to be what they are. Yeah. And in the law, the trial of the grasses kills adult men kills women, which is why women are only women are sorceresses. And had a pretty high attrition rate amongst the boys they used it on. But now it looks like they've Mary sued Siri. They've aged her up, but even in aging her up, there's you can age someone up and still have them keep feminine features. No, she's got a man face. Right, she's got the square jaw, she's got the man face. And
it's like, let's put it this way: without telling anyone who they are, put a picture of her of a similar angle from The Witcher 3, and then this, and then ask them, is this the same character?
Yeah, and people have done, because people have pulled the visages of Siri from like an Asian Witcher like an Asian game that references The Witcher, and the Ciri in that, even though she's aged up, looks like the Ciri in the original game. Right, so, but my other thing is, just looking at, she's using all the Witcher powers. Oh, they've married Suda. They're just trying to make her Geralt with boobs. And we're just like,
They have freely admitted that.
Yep. So, no, they will not be getting my money.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a case of, you whiffed it with the initial release of Cyberpunk, but you reeled it back in. You've won us back and whatnot, and now you shot all that goodwill completely out of a cannon, and you're not getting it back.
I've just found an image for those curious what's being talked about here, and there you are.
Yeah, the fact that they screwed up her eyes, because again, her green eyes were,
if you look at it, it's because she's got Witcher eyes now, so they have to be yellow and they have to be the cat-like slit in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, good luck with that, guys, I suppose. I'm not sure what else to say on that topic, and just to say we will see what happens. But this next one I'm looking forward to talking about, because obviously I've got a couple of PC gamers on the stream. And that is, of course, Helldivers.
Oh, yes.
Sony
completely
yeah.
Now, for those who don't know,
literally shoved into the drawers of defeat versus the other way around normally.
So for those who don't know, Sony did incur the wrath of PC gamers when they mandated they had to sign up for a PSN account in order to play the game. Now, it should be pointed out that apparently the option was there at first, but it was then turned off. But then Sony turned it back on again, and this kicked up a massive stink. Do you guys want to tell this story?
Yeah, it kicked up a massive stink because everyone knew it was bullshit. So it was optional. Like Sony turned on it, they had you optionally had to sign up for a PlayStation Network account. And because their original claim was, it's a server capacity issue. Now everyone knew that was bullshit because the game was running just fine. Everything was running just fine without having PSN turned on. So we're like, okay, there's no capacity issues here. Everything's fine. No, everyone clicked to exactly what Sony's doing. Sony was basically Sony's been trying to sort of leech off the PC market because PlayStation has no games, and everyone can see what Sony's doing. So Sony will basically is trying to it's a free PSN account, but it's mandatory for games, and I can guarantee once the number of people with PSN accounts hits a critical mass, it'll start being, we'll sign up for PSN $5 a month, $10. It's basically the first one is free. Now you need this to play your games.
Yeah,
right.
I should point out I have a PlayStation 5, but I do not use the PSN service because it's not worth the money.
Yeah. So, and I'm this is something that Valve should have stomped on day one, right? They should have stomped on saying no mandatory third-party accounts.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not just Sony that does this. Ubisoft does it as well. There's a few companies that do and hate it. So again, if they do it nowadays, if you have to have a mandatory third-party account to play a game, I'm not buying that game because it's bloody annoying. Because for example, with Ubisoft ties your license, to their third-party account, not Steam. So when I had a few of the Far Cry games, I've since forgotten my login to the Ubisoft stupid service because I never used it. I can't play those Far Cry games anymore. Even though I still have them in my Steam library. Steam says, yes, you purchased them. Here is the key. And Ubisoft makes it a non-transferable license. Yeah. So I actually have put in tickets with Ubisoft saying, no, I've got it. Here's my Steam receipt and everything else. Please transfer they're like, nope, you have to rebuy the game.
Yeah.
So, Ubisoft no longer gets my money.
But it's also, this article makes a very good point because, first of all, you've got the accessibility issue because PSN is not available in 118 different countries, and also security concerns. Because because this one I remember because it says 2023, but I thought it was earlier than that.
No, they've been hacked multiple times.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
PlayStation Network gets hacked regularly.
Okay, I didn't.
It's basically pick any month. There's been a hack.
Yeah,
Okay,
again, there's more
I'm-
holes in that, like more holes in that than grandma's underpants.
Yeah, because I remember the major one they had where they had to.
I've had more than one major one.
Well, the one that made the news, I should say. I think I'm going to say it was for the PS3, unless someone corrects me. But I remember it because a guy at work, he come in and he literally got his new console and he's going, "I can't play on it. It won't work." And he had to wait. I don't know how long it was because they had to rebuild the network after the hack. But well, you know, I didn't realize it had been done as late as last year.
Oh, it's happened multiple times, and that's why another reason people were like, "We don't want to be on your crappy ass network," because
it's happened a few times.
There's a history of you just getting owned, and when they've been hacked, credit card information, etc., has been stolen.
Yeah.
So people are like, "No, we do not wish to give. We do not wish to give Sony any more data than we absolutely have to."
And
Now,
also that whole being cut off is like I did it with Helldivers. It's a case of you had this game that was going beyond gangbusters, as it was blowing every
Yes,
other
it
game
was.
that's been released at that point out of the water and then some. And you killed all momentum when you did this because there was like 118 odd countries that had bought people had bought the game legitimately. Now couldn't play it.
Yeah. And I should point out that Sony did reverse the decision after the humongous backlash, and the gaming community did celebrate. Well, they did celebrate temporarily, but then Sony, in response, which I think was a pretty petty move, stopped selling the game in 180 different countries.
Well, they had to. That's the thing. But no, they didn't. They didn't reverse the decision. You have to have a Sony account to play Helldivers 2.
I thought they reversed it.
No.
Okay.
No. Nope. What happened was in those countries where you couldn't play it due to not being able to log on to PlayStation Network, they gave them refunds.
Yes,
but they didn't. They didn't turn off the requirement. In fact, and also for the PC port of the Ghosts of Tsushima.
Yes.
Like pretty much any Sony PC port comes out now, it has mandatory PSN requirement.
Yeah, that and now God of War has.
No, yeah. They're basically retrofitting other games, but they're trying to basically get as many people in the PSN network as possible. And I will be very unsurprised when they start you want to use PSN network, pay for it.
Yeah, very unwise thing to do.
You know this, I know this, anyone with half a brain knows this, but we're not exactly talking with the brain trust here when it comes to Sony.
Yeah, it's a shame because, like I said, I use a PS5 and it takes a lot for me to buy a game now.
It's not like they've got any.
Well, they have.
Well, again, that might segue into another.
Yeah.
Another thing we talked about was like the thing that the bell tolls for Sony, it tolls for thee.
Yeah. Well, this next one, because again we're going into Sony again because this one legit pissed me off, and this was the Sony PS5 Pro announcement. Right, the pricing was what got me. Because for those who don't know, the PS5 on its own, PS5 Pro on its own, was $700 and £700. To get the disc drive is an additional $80 or £80. And to get the stand, because that's no longer included with the console, is an extra $25 or £25. So it's £805 for the complete package, quote unquote. And then to wind things up even more, because, Sony just seem to like doing that at the moment, the anniversary edition was announced, 30th anniversary edition, and only 12,300 of these were made. And upon launch, it was instantly swept up, mostly by scalpers by the look of it. And the only way to get one, which was a grand at launch because it came with all the bits and bobs plus an additional controller, can only be found on eBay primarily for varying, and in some cases I'd call obscene prices. One I saw was literally going at 49,000 US. Yeah. A
pretty expensive Blu-ray player.
Yeah. Now, from my perspective, I had a PS1 back when it came out, and I always liked the design. And for a brief, fleeting moment, I thought, I'd like one of these because, well, purely for nostalgia purposes, I'll be honest. But when I heard the shit going around, I just thought, no. And Sony, I can't for the life of me think why they made so little of them.
They're basically adopting the same marketing strategy as Apple, right?
Yeah.
They think that they can, they look at Apple and the fact that iPhones make so much money, blah blah blah, because people have brand loyalty. As much as I want to punch myself for saying that,
yeah.
Right? But again, Sony, you're not Mac, you're not Apple, and there is something on the horizon that's there is a meteor looming in Sony's sky.
Well, we talked about this the other day, didn't we? Because there's a certain other company that are potentially bringing a console out, aren't they?
Yes.
Give me details. Come on.
Valve is rumored to be finally getting into the console market, having more or less sort of sharpened their fangs, on with the Steam Deck.
Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they've got emulation and everything working on the Steam Deck properly, they are now looking at releasing a console. That console is going to destroy Sony.
Why do you think that?
Because so there's two reasons. One from a consumer point of view and one from a studio development point of view. So I'll address the consumer point of view first.
Go for it.
So Valve's Steam Deck is rumored to be about $399 US.
Mm-hmm.
So already on price, it blows Sony absolutely out of the water.
Yep.
And at launch, it has millions of games, literally.
Yeah, it does.
Right. So whereas everyone the meme is just the PS5 has no games. There's no exclusives. There's no reason to buy a PlayStation because it's like any game you can get on PlayStation, you can get on PC.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then from a studio pipeline point of view, right, because developing for PlayStations is a pain in the ass because you've got to run an entirely separate development package and platform, and there's a whole heap of software requirements. Whereas if you're developing for Xbox and PC, Xboxes these days are just a scaled down PC, right? With a Windows operating system. So from a back-end development pipeline point of view, you can develop for PC and Xbox using essentially the same tools. You don't need to have that separate development pipeline. And so you will now be able to go, well, you at the same time you're developing for PC, you're developing for PlayStation, and you're developing for Steam console.
Mm-hmm.
And again, especially with modern consumers, things getting tight and people, having to watch their wallets. Why would you buy essentially an $800 PlayStation console with no games versus a $400 Steam console with literally millions of games?
There's also another factor to this, which I don't think many people sort of think about too much, although I could be wrong. But in order to appreciate a pro console like this, you need to shell out for a pretty expensive TV. And who's going to do that?
Yeah, that was always the other Sony synergy that just never happened, right? Because again, Sony happens to be the maker of like 4K TVs, etc. Well, and Sony was like, oh, well, if we push the high end graphic stuff, we can use it to people will go out and buy 4K TVs. Well, no one really did.
No.
Right. So that was a huge swing and a miss on Sony's part.
Yeah, but again, it wound me up, like I said, specifically because of the bollocks with the anniversary edition, because it did look really nice, and well, that's what you get, I suppose. And it's a shame because I don't like seeing companies screw up like this. But well,
no, it was like Sony's. No, Sony's always been bad. I've heard all sorts of stories. I've got a friend who I won't name names, who was quite senior up in the Sony's animation studio in Vancouver, who
Hmm.
did Enter the Spider-Verse, etc. And I've heard about the shenanigans behind that.
Oh,
So
really?
yes. Oh, just the way they were treating stuff and why Sony, and this is sort of endemic of the animation industry and movie making in Hollywood at the moment in general, is their process has just gone out the window. They have more or less gone from traditional movie making pipelines and storyboarding and getting everything right to
Yeah.
just letting the directors run rampant. And so it's constant re-renders. That's why you had, if anyone remembers, sort of probably 12 months ago at this point, you had the Sony animation crowd behind End of the Spider-Verse just basically go on strike, just walk away and just go, nope, we're not working for these bastards anymore.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there was a huge kerfuffle with the animators because when End of the Spider-Verse came out, it was so popular. Sony absolutely just chewed through the animators. It was just constant directors going, "Oh yeah, I don't like that scene. Re-render it," or "We've completely changed our mind. We're going to go with this sequence now. Please re-render. Get the animators to redo it."
Mhm.
And they were working the animators, 25 hours a day. Sort of thing, and the animators all just burned. Yeah, and then they went, "Oh, we're doing another Spider-Verse, and we're going to be doing it in a 2-year time frame." Animators have just looked at that and go, "No," and walked out because they're just, it's not worth it, right?
All right, so on to the next one then, and because we've talked about Sony, we're going to talk about Microsoft, and well, they decided to axe 4 of their major game studios this year.
Microsoft is pulling a Disney.
Yeah, including obviously the developer of the game, as you could see, Hi-Fi Rush, which was where is it? Tango Gameworks, Arcane Studios, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios, all in one fell swoop. The writer of the email, Matt Booty, that's a great name, who's the head of Xbox Game Studios, even got 2 of the developers' names wrong in the email, and this was announced on the biggest holiday week in Japan when a lot of the staff are away on vacation, including Hi-Fi Rush's director, which is like, how nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Microsoft is buying up again. We've sort of been joking with us. Is 2025 is going to be AAA Deadpool, right? So how many of these AAA studios are going to be around at the end of 2025? They're either going to be bought up, or it's basically they're either going to be bought up or busted, right? And what Microsoft's doing, what you're seeing Microsoft, Tencent, and Sony doing, is that you're just going to have consolidation, right? They're going to be buying up these studios, and Microsoft will buy them up and just go, "Yep, we don't need the studio. We just want the IP."
Yeah.
Right. So this is something Disney's famous for, is buying up all these studios and then just sitting on the intellectual property like some just massive dragon. And and this came up with Sony as well, because one of the Sony execs did a presentation where they're like, "Oh, there's not a lot of IP. We want to make stuff that the audience wants," and the audience has snapped back on Twitter going, "You are sitting on literally all these IPs. We all want games from these IPs." And Sony's just looked at it and go, "Nah." Right. So Microsoft's going to be doing the same. Is they're just going to end up with all these IPs they're sitting on that just sort of sit in the corner and rot.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do with them, or they don't want to license them out to other studios going, "We could do something really awesome with that." And, Microsoft's not going to license them out, or Sony is especially guilty for this, but they're not going to license them out for, deals that make sense for the studios. They're like, so yeah.
And they're going, I'm betting they're going to do the, just what Fox did, because Fox were horrible for this as well with movies, and like, "Oh, these IPs," and all these people practically beating their doors in going, "We want to work with your IP, please." And they're like, "You want it too much. We're going to give it to the studio over here that absolutely fucking hates everything to do with this IP, and let them have a go at it. And why isn't it making money? Why is everyone peeved at us? Isn't there a fandom attached to this? They
Yeah.
should be beating our doors down to see this. What's going on? Twaddle. These people don't know what they like.
Yeah, I mean, it was seen as a strange move in part to shut these studios down because the Xbox heads of the gaming departments, including Phil Spencer, had heaped praise on these studios. I mean, for those who don't know, obviously Tango made Hi-Fi Rush, and Arcane were responsible for the Dishonored series, Prey, and the ill-fated Redfall. I mean,
This is the thing. It makes sense from a business point of view. Again, Phil Spector's, he's doing his best, but
yeah.
he works for Microsoft,
Hmm.
and I'm sure the Microsoft business guys just looked at the numbers and went, nah. Right?
Yeah.
Again, they bought it for the IP. They're like, yeah, we don't want to actually have to be running these studios, rudder. We can just license these out to, studios to make the thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. I mean,
That's the thing. It's when it comes down to it,
yeah.
it's a business,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, with Redfall, for example, I mean, obviously that game it is quite well known as a failure at this point. But Arcane were working on an offline mode before the cancellations. So once this goes through, that game will just disappear.
I've got a good explanation of why Redfall ended up being such a clusterfuck.
Yeah, because he wasn't. I think I remember this, but go on.
Because basically the head of the game was literally behaving like a toddler who was like, shiny thing, include that shiny thing. Oh, what's the latest thing everyone else is doing? Include that and that and that and that. And they're like, okay, we've changed everything from the ground up. How many times now can we set a point of game is X
Yeah,
with X features?
In,
Yes. And more further in, they're like, oh, change it, add that. But that's got absolutely nothing to do. Like, that's
yeah,
even well outside the scope of what we're doing and what this kind of game is. I don't care. Add that. I want it.
yeah. Well,
And then
everyone.
they ran out of time, ran out of money, and they had to basically literally part cheeks and drop that absolute turd and
Yeah,
basically walk away from it.
because a lot of these videos.
in the software business world, they call that agile project management. Yeah. And I hate agile. I hate it.
Well, everyone wanted to be part of this whole on live games as a service model, didn't they? And unfortunately, it just doesn't work for everyone, as we're going to discuss later. But the funny thing is, one guy that commented on this was Thomas Mahler of Moon Studios, who worked with Xbox primarily on titles like Ori and the Blind Forest, which was a game I absolutely loved. And he tweeted, to everyone who's been pestering me for years about why we didn't allow Moon Studios to be acquired by a big publisher, that's why. I lived through the 90s and saw what happened when similar studios got acquired by EA. Never again. And I thought, well, fair play to him. He kept his studio out of this crap. And Matt Booty was later talked about it in a town hall style meeting where he gave reasons for it. What happened? He said the company studios had been spread too thin, like peanut butter on bread, and that leaders across the division had felt understaffed, and they decided to close these studios to free up sources elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
this was skepticism. Oh no, again, they were understaffed. Well, you could have staffed them.
Yeah.
You could have resourced them properly, but instead you've just done the maths and gone, nah, they've just gone, nah, we own the IP. We can just get other studios. They'll have their core constituents of studios, and you'll have the Microsoft quote unquote, studio, generic studio, whatever. They just hand the IP to them and say do stuff with it. Right, so Microsoft just looked at it and gone, no, any studio is as good as another. There's no uniqueness to them. We have the IP. We can just get them to do the stuff with the IP.
But
we don't have to pay actual talented people the money they're worth. We can just pick randos who what's talent, and pay them pittance, but they'll work for us because, I'm working on an Xbox title. I'm working for Microsoft. You guys made it, while getting paid barely enough to afford the shoebox I live in.
Yeah. Again, just because you're getting it working for Microsoft does not mean you're going to get paid paid Microsoft money. It's not like you're working for them directly. You're going to be working for Microsoft Studio, right? Again, which might be slightly better. I mean, again, but you look at Microsoft, because remember, Microsoft now owns Blizzard, and Blizzard's slowly dying. So again, they're on my 2025 Deadpool as well.
Yeah. Now it does end on a slightly good note, this topic. Tango Gameworks were saved after being acquired by the publisher Krafton, So their game Hi-Fi Rush, which I think did win awards, will continue to exist. So I was pleased in that respect for them. Right, and one more to go before we talk about the games of this year. And this one I'm looking forward to some cackles about.
Yeah, I want to put my hand up for that crafting thing. That was
Yeah.
not a good thing.
Wasn't it?
No.
Ooh, okay, why is that then?
Guess who owns crafting?
Oh, don't tell me it's Tencent.
And close.
Who?
Well, Crafton's a South Korean one, so it's actually not too bad,
Okay.
right? Because they're the mob who do PUBG, Unknown Worlds, and a few other ones. So, you know, but Crafton, it's got, it's Crafton. It's got Tencent owns a 13% stake. So Tencent has its fingers in that pie.
Okay, well, shame, but here we are. All right, so Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, this one was funny as hell to watch because the Assassin's Creed series is a long-running one, and this really should have been a good announcement given the setting. But then the main character was seemingly changed to be a black samurai, apparently based on a man from history called Yasuki, if I'm getting his name right.
Yasuke. Yeah.
Yasuke, I beg your pardon. And you guys can correct me here, but this guy was little more than the footnote in history, and they've elevated him to be something more than what he was.
Even footnote is putting it a bit too, putting too much into it. He was like literally a nothing that someone just mentioned, and someone going, "Oh, haha, yes, I remember that," and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
In a tiny segment, in a tiny, massive screed of this particular history of this emperor and his the people below him, and some of the things that went on with his wars and that he's involved in. It's
it was essentially
we're talking like a footnote of a sentence, like maybe 2 sentences.
Yeah, 2 lines, right? And they've taken that puff of cotton and proceeded to try and weave a whole cloth game thing out of it. And this is diversity. This is, again, Sweet Baby Ink and Co. and Guarantee are involved in this, but mind you, Ubisoft is drinking the Kool-Aid pretty hard these days.
And add to that quote-unquote fanboyism, basically going, I this person existed and I'm a fanboy, so I'm going to do the fanboy thing and basically turn them into giant historic facts and all this, and I'm a historian.
Yeah.
Are you
well,
now?
fangirl anyway.
No, but this is my fantasy of what I thought happened. So you're not a historian, and there's no facts of this.
And not and aren't you the same creepy Fujo who did a whole research paper on the relationship between Japanese priests and the boys who worked in their temples?
That's the woman who's the lead writer.
No,
I'm talking about the dipshit, quote-unquote, researcher who claimed all this shit, and they basically ate it up until other people turned around and go,
yeah. Because I remember. Actual historian. Actual historians got involved because they found out that same dipshit had been editing the wiki page for that thing. He's basically doing a woozle. Yeah. Right? So, for anyone who doesn't know, in Winnie the Pooh, you had a woozle. There's a Winnie the Pooh story when him and Piglet are following these tracks in the snow, and they're conjecturing as to what it might be, and they come up with this creature called the woozle, right? And they just more and more invent what this woozle might be. What they're actually doing is following their own tracks in the snow in circles. So, in research terms, that's props to Laserpig, a YouTuber who came up with that term, but it's a woozle. They're following their own tracks. There's no actual reference for this apart from 2 lines in a Japanese historical text.
Yeah.
And they're just making shit up out of whole cloth. So yeah, the researcher behind this guy was then, woozling his own work, editing the wiki page and, just creating circular sources. And then people started looking into it. Actual historians and Japanese historians especially started looking into this and went, this is bullshit.
No, the funny thing was
this way, what little was found to be written about this guy. There was no description given aside from that he was an African slave
Hmm.
who'd basically been given to this guy as a retainer, as essentially a prop and a toy and a doll to parade about. Like, look at his exotic skin. Look at all these fancy clothes I'm putting this slave in. Isn't this just so funny? Isn't he so cute?
It was funny because anyone who dared to criticize this was obviously called a racist bigot by those involved. But
At this point,
yeah.
you get called that and basically
Oh
go,
yeah.
okay, and?
Yeah. But the thing
Yes,
is,
and?
the Japanese, however, really didn't take too kindly to this.
Oh,
And
no.
despite a scholar, Thomas Lockley, his name was,
That's
claiming
the idiot.
claiming that no Japanese historian had questioned Yasuki's role in this. It got brought up in the Japanese parliament, for crying out loud.
Well, yeah, it
Yeah.
is, and the thing is, again, it's as it should be because it's a point of natural history, and
Yeah.
Japanese Parliament just going, yeah, this is bullshit. We've got
Yeah.
like some white guy obsessed with black diversity trying to actively change our history, right?
That
So
would be like, let's put it this way, that would be like some dipshit historian in another country saying the Queen Mother was a black man.
But when it really got the attention of Japan, other mistakes were noticed in the trailer, such as Chinese architecture in Japanese cities, flags and banners that never existed. The game even had a hip hop soundtrack, which I'm pretty sure is a stereotype which some don't like.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and then there's even the merch. Some of the merch that was shown off pissed people off because one had the female character in the game, I don't know her name, sitting on top of what's called, I think it's a Haftori gate, which
Yep.
in Japan
It's the half gate.
It's a temple gate. It's essentially a temple
gate.
Yeah, and that particular gate was an iconic symbol of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki.
Yeah, they basically went on to I guarantee what they've done in the studio is they've gone onto Google, just put in Hattori Gate, and they've pulled the first thing they've seen, which would have been the iconic one that was left after the Hiroshima bombing, right? That is an iconic photo, and if you don't immediately look at that and go, I know that reference, I probably shouldn't use that in a game for advertising, you surely shouldn't be working on the game. Even I know that.
Especially making a like figurine with it.
Yeah.
And this company claimed, like basically over and over and over, oh, no, we hired in experts. We hired in historical experts and like historical experts from Tumblr.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any Japanese names amongst those quote-unquote historical experts.
Well, this is the best part. I've been looking forward to talking about this bit. An article in the Times tried to put all the blame of the attitudes towards this game on Western audiences and made out that the Japanese games were totally cool with the whole thing. But that was wait for it. That was soon called into serious bullshit because the quote-unquote Japanese expert the writer had spoken to. Can you guess what company he was revealed to have worked for?
China, Tencent. No.
Sweet Baby Inc.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And after,
somebody better pick up that phone because I fucking called it.
And then leakers inside Ubisoft revealed the protagonist had been Japanese until he was swapped in to reflect the cultural atmosphere in America at the time. And this, and revelations also came that the culture of Ubisoft too, with the insiders claiming the company was basically ruled by ruled by HR with an iron fist. And as a result of all this, they had to withdraw from the Tokyo Game Show, and the game has been delayed until next year.
Oh, I wish they hadn't. It would have been just like the Japanese Parliament in the 1950s.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Or the 1940s. You just would have had Ubisoft presenting, and some Japanese guy just would have rushed to the stage with a bloody sword. The thing is, talk about cultural insensitivity. Yeah, it's we're concerned about American culture. I'm like, hang on. You do realize that there is a problem in Japan at the moment with, unfortunately, black people causing a lot of crime. And what do? You have a black samurai in your trailer, and people's shots of it of him trashing Japanese stalls and just
Attacking
doing a lot
Japanese
of crime and
peasants.
attacking. And I'm like, yeah, that went off like a lead balloon. Because what we're also seeing now, because the Japanese people and consumers haven't really picked up on a lot of this stuff because of the language barrier, right? And while a lot of Japanese people do speak English, most Japanese don't. So what's been happening is a lot of Westerners who speak Japanese have been going on to the Japanese side of Twitter and translating things and going, "Hey, Japan, just so you're aware, this is what's happening." And so that language barrier is starting to be breached, and the Japanese are realizing what's going on, and they are understandably not happy about it.
I also add to that, as I think it's also happening because there's a lot of VTubers who are Japanese but English speakers, and vice versa, who are paying attention, who are gamers and paying attention to this, talking about it, and thusly it's getting cross-pollinated, especially those who are English speakers that speak Japanese and have a Japanese audience. And can articulate what's going on and add their own opinion, and they're having the Japanese go, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. All right. So on to some of the games that came out this year and our thoughts on them. Obviously, we won't cover them all due to time, but the first one we'll talk about, I know you guys are looking forward to talking about. This game was actually released last year, but we'll talk about why it's going to be mentioned this year shortly. And that is, of course, Power World. Released right at the end of last year. It's a hit, isn't it?
Yeah, for a small indie team who basically started this thing out as a passion project, it's gone absolutely gangbusters, and it's fantastic. And then Nintendo just starts patent bullshit.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But the game apparently has sold well over 8 million units, and apparently had a small budget of around $6.5 million. Its launch was a bit touchy because apparently the servers came overloaded and needed some major attention. And there was even silly, besides the, how do I put this? The claims that they ripped off Pokemon. There was also claims that had been made using AI, which of course weren't correct.
Oh, that was the Nintoddlers. Again, I think finish your notes because I want to go off about that.
Well, yeah. So obviously, as Wombat mentioned, Nintendo eventually filed lawsuit against Pocket Pair, claiming infringement of patent rights. Now, the interesting thing is, Pocket Pair said the game had cleared legal reviews, and their lawyers were not aware of.
No, that's because Nintendo are pricks and they filed the patents retroactively.
Yeah.
So the game came out and then Nintendo filed the patents.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think they will be okay?
They'll be okay, but they're going to have to go through legal bullshit, and I really don't want Nintendo to win this patent war because, and this isn't just a Nintendo bad plea, it's more, it sets a really nasty precedent, right? Like for example, in the US and the EU, you can't patent game mechanics, right? And not to mention, if I were Power World's legal team, I would actually be going to the route of invalidating those patents. Because if Nintendo wins this, and Nintendo has actually set a very low bar, Nintendo's being sneaky here, they're trying to set a precedent.
Yeah.
Right. So they're only asking about the equivalent of about 20 grand US, or it's a very, very low amount of money they're asking from Pocket Pair, but they're trying to set a precedent. If they get this, that means that they can retroactively file patents for pretty much any game mechanic and then use it to go after everyone. Right. So this is a big issue for people, that people don't realize. It would give Nintendo's, already particularly nasty legal department another stick to beat other companies with until money falls out.
Yeah.
So no, I'm just vehemently against Nintendo for doing this, and I hope that, like I said, Pocket Pair does actually go the route of just getting the patent invalidated, because under Japanese patent law, there is a way to get it invalidated under prior art. Right, to say no, you can't patent something that already exists. And these mechanics have existed for decades. It's been a staple of the monster catcher genre, right? So yeah, they really kind of. But again, invalidating patents is an expensive process. So if Pocket Pair doesn't go down that route, I don't blame them, but they really should. Because if you give Nintendo this, they're just going to say they're going to use the stick, and it's just going to incentivize bad behavior on Nintendo's part.
So, do you think these designs are at all rip-offs of
No,
Pokemon?
no. Again, this is people. Again, this is the American Nintoddlers not understanding. Okay, hey, monster catcher games have existed before Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
so, and that's
it's like
what everyone else pointed out. This isn't. Pokemon's not just the other. There is a whole genre of games like this. And no, it was just the American Nintoddlers it was mainly them throwing a tantrum that Power World players got the the Pokemon game that the Nintoddlers wanted.
Yeah,
Right?
I should also correct ourselves quickly because I thought this was released late last year, and I'm just looking at the Steam page and it was actually released
January.
Yeah, so I'll correct myself there.
Yeah, So
and also to add on to that, it's like if you really want to get nitty gritty about it, Digimon did it first. Digimon existed several years before Pokemon.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Right, if anyone should be suing, it should be the creators of Digimon to be suing Nintendo.
No, the reason is that the Pokemon community have just been eating shit when it comes to Pokemon games. Like, the Pokemon company has just been serving up turd sandwiches, and the Nintendo crowd just have been eating them because they thought there was no alternative. Well, they've then looked over
latest one.
Yeah, it's a buggy mess.
Game
Yeah, it's cheap, nasty, buggy mess, but it's incredibly profitable, which is why it keeps getting produced that way.
Yeah.
Well, they've been in their cat turd sandwich, and they've looked over to see Power World players eating good.
Yeah.
Hey, wait, your sandwiches don't have cat turds in them, and they actually look good, and we want that. And yeah, then the tantrum started.
Yeah, it's that one, whatever it was, Achirius, whatever it was that they released. That was like pretty much like Power World, but the whole was like, it looks like pretty much Power World was what it should have been for. But instead they basically go, oh yeah, we've already got Pokemon at home.
No, we want Pokemon. We've got Pokemon at home. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the bin. If you dig deep enough, you'll find it. And it smells a bit, and it's a bit sloppy, and it basically keeps breaking.
Well,
but it's Pokemon. You love it.
But the community got behind it as well because it was a legitimate passion project. One of the designers that they got for the guns and the weapons was just this basically gun artist who was working at 7-Eleven in Japan, and he's been like a friend of a friend has approached him, and he's just gone, yeah, no worries, more than happy to work on it. The same with the designer for the actual PALs, because she'd been, she was just loved that genre. She loved that art style.
Yeah.
Right. And she'd been applying to Nintendo for years, and Nintendo's just been looking at her designs, just going, nah. And then so she applied to Pal World, and Pal World went, fuck yes. And so, yeah, it is really, they got people who were genuine. And this is the thing. And this is what's not happening in the West, is they're getting people who are genuinely passionate and enjoy, love their work to come and work for them, and it shows. Versus the West, which is, oh, you're a fan of that thing? No, we're not going to hire you. Oh, you actively hate that thing and want to shit on the fans? Yeah, great. Here's a job. Get to work, right?
So before we move on, I'm just curious, how many hours have you guys put into this game?
I do not wish to answer that.
I actually haven't
to be
played
fair,
it
I'm
yet.
looking at my Steam library about 60 hours.
But
it's just a good, comfy game, right? I'm waiting for a bit more polish. I mean, for me, it's like, it's I'm much more narrative-driven games, but it's a good, fun, crafting monster catcher game, right? So you've got the settlement mechanic. You can go out and catch your pals and actually put them to work. It's fun, and I happen to love the little shorts the Pocket Pair puts out every so often on YouTube. They're cute.
And they're all made in game. Like all the everything they make.
Just use in-game engine. Yeah.
They use in-game engine and in-game assets to make them. So they're not going. People basically poked at them like, "Oh, you're wasting money," and like, "No, we're just doing this in engine, so we're not having to."
We're just doing this for fun. Yeah.
It's just fun and silly, and because we can.
All right. So on to the next one then. This is not just going to cover one game, but a few for reasons it will become clear. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered.
Yes, the septic tank of remasters.
Yeah. So
Right. Yeah.
The
with
remaster that no one asked for, and from a game that was like it wasn't. It's like, how old was The Last of Us 2 already?
Oh no! Again, no one really liked The Last of Us 2 because it mostly just got dunked on.
yeah,
Right.
I mean,
That is Neil. That is
Yeah, and the
Neil.
fact it's only 4 years since The Last of Us 2.
yeah. Now it was basically upgraded because, from what I can tell, it was a PS4 game and they wanted to bring it to PS5. And what I'm aware of, improvements, if you can call them this, faster speed, smoother graphics, dual sense controller support, and a new mode. Woohoo! And if you already own the game, you had to pay $10 for the upgrade.
Get fucked.
Or
Versus Skyrim, who did a free upgrade if you
Yeah.
already owned the game, even if it was like nearly 10 years later, they gave you a free upgrade.
yeah, or if you wanted to buy it brand new, $60.
No.
Now, no, as you said, nobody asked for this, and
Yeah, nobody wanted it, and the thing, the
And,
biggest thing with Last of Us 2 is everyone was just memeing on it as to how bad it was, and again, how the story made absolutely no sense. But this is Sweet Baby Inc. because again, this is Sweet Baby Inc. before Sweet Baby Inc. was a thing.
yeah,
That and you know, I refuse to call Druckmann by his real name. I'm just going to start referring to him as Cuckman.
well, what I remember about this was the absolute lie they told with that trailer, because everyone that was a fan of the first one, and I was, enjoyed the relationship between Joel and Ellie.
And again, what happened, for anyone who doesn't know, what happened is the original one was written by Amy Hennig. Amy Hennig is, you know, a goddess of writing in the video game community. She's written all the games. You know, she's a fantastic writer. For Last of Us Part 2, Cuckman took over and decided no, because Cuckman is a narcissist, and I, you know, fight me IRL anyone who disagrees.
And a fan of Sarkeesians.
Oh yeah, he is. But he's also a massive narcissist. So he pushed out Henning. There's a whole saga as to basically him pushing out Henning, taking over Naughty Dog, and going, right, I'm going to write it. And you've just got Cuckman's writing. Because I will never forget, because he wants to be in Hollywood. He really wants to be Hollywood famous. I will never forget the photo of him at some sort of Hollywood awards show, standing there for photographers to take photos. And the photographers are like, who the fuck are you?
Oh,
It was just so painful to watch, but it's funny at the same time.
The video
like,
was
just,
just,
like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
The video of him just stand like what, like they had some celeb before him waltz out. The camera's going nuts and telling him pose and whatnot. He waltzes out, it's like grinning, and they're all standing there like,
yeah, because
cameras come down like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
You just look at some random. Off you go. Yeah, we want actually famous people. Go on, fuck off.
I used to work with people that were watching the series on the TV, and a couple of guys had asked me, am I watching? Because they knew I played the first one. I went, no, I'm not going near it. And they said, why not? And I said, because I know where that story's going.
And it involves him. Yeah, it involves Cuckman literally shagging his waifu.
I know. I know the stink was kicked up. I'm not going to show the scene because for reasons.
Oh no, I sent you the meme of it.
Yeah, I don't want to see it.
No. It's actually it's relax. It's a 4chan take of it to set to an ELO song, but everyone was just memeing on it. It was just hilarious.
Yeah,
because it was so cringe, and everyone else brought up the other massive hypocrisy when it came.
I want to bring that up.
Yeah, they brought up the other massive hypocrisy with, oh wait, so The Last of Us Part 2 can have sex scenes, even though as cringe as they are.
Oh yeah,
and other games get censored. What?
Yeah.
Other games get basically a peak of a bit more than normal cleavage, a peak of butt crack. Oh no, blare it out, censor it. Oh
yeah.
What's blatantly obvious, like this is no hiding it. They're full bore having sex.
Yeah, giggity. Yeah.
On screen.
Yeah, cheeks are being slapped. Yeah, cheeks are being clapped, and no, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, and this always brings up. Yeah,
they don't even do it in a way though you did with previous games. In case, they get all snuggly as things start and then cut away. Like, no, they full of this. There's cheeks clapping. There's the whole 9 yards going on there.
There's cheeks being clapped, and at the same time, they're going on about, it's like, yeah, but you're censoring, anything else that's slightly sexy, etc. And again, the pattern is obvious. If guys enjoy it, it's going to get censored. If it's a Cuckman vanity project, it's not going to get censored. The exception to that is Larian Studios with BG3, but we can get into that.
Wow. Okay, so the next one to talk
Because
about
in BG3 you get to clap bare cheeks, and
yeah.
I don't want to get clapped by Bear.
I don't want to talk about that. But then, obviously, you've got this one, the Battlefront Classic Collection, and as you can see from the reviews, mostly negative.
Yeah, because it was crap.
Yeah, well, I'll try and cut a long story short with this. Around 10,000 people tried to play it on launch night, but there were only 3 servers with 64 slots each. And then also you got the $35 price tag. And when you were able to actually get into an online match, there was massive lag, audio bugs, crashes, and the online matches were about 2 minutes in length. Okay, I mean...
Yep, shit PC board shit. And again, it sounds like they were probably doing that one out of contractual obligation.
Yeah.
Right, but this is par for the course for anything Star Wars related, because it's still owned and run by Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm is run by Kathleen Kennedy, and Kathleen Kennedy literally, she has the, I don't know what's the equivalent of the Midas touch, but everything you touch turns to shit.
Let's just call it the Kennedy touch.
Yeah.
Yep. It's officially the Kennedy touch. Anything you touch will fail.
Yeah. It was also noticed by some that the original game file was only 12.39 gigabytes, but this version was 62.87 gigabytes.
Yeah, because most of that was cinematic, flash screens.
And this release actually had more bugs in it than the original.
Yep.
And there was...
Give me money. It's Star Wars. You love Star Wars, right? Give me money.
So this again, and this is my complaint with 99% of remasters and re-releases. They are a cash grab.
Yes.
Right. They is, hey, we're going to upscale the textures so they don't look so pixelated on newer equipment, and then we're just going to shut it out there, and then just get the emulation working to the minimum. We're not going to fix any of the bugs or any other stuff. So, in fact, we're going to introduce more bugs, because when you're modernizing stuff like that, you are going to get bugs. It's just, but we're not going to spend any money on QA. No. We're just going to shut it out there. Again, it is entirely a nostalgia cash grab, right? And this is kind of one of my complaints: is people need to stop falling for nostalgia bait. Justin, I want a nostalgia PS5, right?
Yeah,
you don't have,
that was momentary. That's my defense.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, yes, but you must be strong.
Weakness, fine.
And then you've got this one, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop.
That, to their credit, everyone had worries about this because it's current year. Right, to their credit, they actually did this as a remaster done correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, they've upscaled the textures and everything. They've ported it properly. It works fine. Right, they haven't done any censorship. And I think that's probably because the studio Suda 51 wouldn't have signed off on it if they had. Right, he's an auteur of the highest order.
Yeah.
So they basically did what you should have done for a remaster. Yes, they fixed all the textures. They've made it look good on modern console for a PC release as well. Great.
Yeah, I mean,
and everyone was happy with it.
I always chuckle at this when the zombies are driving a bus and they try to crash into her and miss. And Juliet's line is, "Wow, zombies really suck dick at driving." And I just thought, okay, I'm going to enjoy this game, and it was a fun time. I mean. It's been seen by those who've played the remaster as very faithful to the original game, as you said. However, all the licensed songs had to be replaced, which I suppose is a thing of time.
That's unfortunately a business thing. It's just a case because music industry are dicks.
Yeah.
They would have gone, oh, you're re-releasing it? Yeah, we want you to relicense it here and give us all the money. Right.
Yeah, we want you to relicense this, and we're going to basically screw you over 10 ways and Sunday on what we're going to demand for the licensing of those songs versus what we charged the first time round.
Yeah. And what I've seen of what they've done with the game itself, higher resolution, frame rate, and improved combat. And apparently the upgrade store is no longer the massive grind that it once was, apparently. But I don't remember it being as such. But
I do remember it being a bit grindy, but
okay,
this is the thing. This is a remaster done properly.
yeah.
They fixed.
Well,
They've looked back on it and gone. They've looked at the balance issues and gone, yeah, okay, we can tweak that balance, etc., etc., and improve the experience.
Well, apparently it did launch, sadly, with a few bugs, audio cutting out, boss executions bugging, and hit detection a bit off. But allegedly it's been patched, so I'll give it a look at some point probably, because I played this game and it was fun.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing. That's the thing with modern software stuff. You're going to have bugs, but the fact that they've done everything right and they've gone okay, and the thing is, you do have limitations in testing. You can't test for every possible scenario out there in terms of PC setup, and the good thing is, when it does get out to the wild, Steam does do a lot of metric and bug reporting and the rest of it. So they actually do get really good technical feedback very quickly, so they can identify those commonalities and fix those bugs. Because I actually do remember a story where they just recently this year, this is a little tangent, but there was an issue with some of the generation of Intel CPUs. Now, Intel was being very cagey about it and not admitting there was an issue. But what I remember watching one YouTuber, technical YouTuber, who reached out to a friend who may or may not have worked for Steam, to get a whole heap of metric feedback to spot a commonality. Yeah. And using that information, he says, yeah, you'd be amazed at the metrics you get back for just troubleshooting, not, advertising, but just, anonymized troubleshooting, that you can identify these bugs really quickly. So again, it's kind of an annoyance for me as well with companies if they release shitty, buggy games. I'm like, you've got no excuse. Steam gives you a fantastic technical resource to debug that stuff. You just don't want to.
Especially when those bugs aren't just a case of, it's an audio pop problem here or a bit of a glitch there, but game-breaking levels of shit.
Yeah.
Like, you got no excuse for that. It's like, okay, with other stuff, it's a case of you can only basically work with so many variations of rigs to figure out your bugs. Everyone's got rigs of all different mishmash of all parts and everything that you can't really account for. That sort of stuff helps you figure out and go, okay, so people got this certain hard drive, this certain graphics card, whatnot, having these issues. Like we're consistently having these issues. Let's iron that out, fix it. But what if you've got a game that's basically just shits the bed on load, or you can't even get through the first tutorial level of shit?
You would have picked that up
you
in
didn't
testing.
do any checking, did you?
Yeah, you basically had the one person working on it going, it works on my machine. Well, then great, we'll go to prod.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than actually doing a proper proper batch of regression testing with different hardware platforms. And again, there's no excuse these days as well, because these days you don't need the physical hardware. You can set up virtual environments that emulate that hardware extremely well. I know this because I do this for a job. So you can set up a bunch of VMs to mimic, the most common forms of hardware out there, and then use that for your regression testing and go, okay, it works on the, all the common ones that we can find, right?
Yeah.
And then you can push it to prod.
All right. And then you've got The Thing remastered, which literally came out this month. And apparently this one has gone down very well.
Yeah, because Night Dive are a good studio.
Yeah.
They're very quality focused. I've got nothing but nice things to say about Night Dive.
Yeah. Enhanced graphics, textures, animations, lighting, because I played this on the PS2 back in the day, and half the gripe I had with it was in the night sections you really couldn't see what was going on, which I appreciate it was at night, but still. And they even apparently have added in cut content from the original game, changing some of the assets to better tie in with the movie, such as bodies from the original cast, giving the creatures a more
they didn't really so much just change stuff, they just more added stuff that was missing.
Auto saves have been added because that wasn't there before, and better difficulty settings. And this one I'm pleased to see, because like I said, I played this and it was, like I said, very difficult in places, but now I've seen this, it's like, okay, I think I might be tempted to give it a look.
Well, that's the point. And again, this is a remaster done correctly.
Yes.
You take the original, scale up the graphics and you fix a bunch of stuff, and you even add in stuff like you've got the budget now. Yeah, great. We've still got all those old assets and stuff that we never quite finished or was missing from the original. We can put that in now and actually give no, this isn't just a cut and paste remake with nicer textures. It's an improvement, and again, it's worth people buying it. So,
yeah. So, do you think a lot of these remasters are just simple cash grabs, or
yes,
do you...
most are.
Majority
Again,
are.
majority are, but again, especially from the bigger studios. But Night Dive these days actually does seem to be specializing in remasters, so they're getting really good at it. But there are some that are genuinely good re-releases that are, as I said, you've highlighted some of the good ones there.
Yeah.
They've fixed things up and they've ongoing support. They haven't just pooped it out into the world and then been done with it. So no, unfortunately, anything from general rule of thumb is any remaster from a AAA studio is a cash grab.
Yeah.
Right. But Night Dive seems to be specializing in remasters, and they're actually doing a good job of them. So yeah,
we're working on the basis of we're remastering what was. We're not trying to take what was and turn it into something that we want. Versus the whole point is you take what was, fix its problems, enhance some things that couldn't be done at the time, add in some things that they couldn't finish at the time, and they put it out as it was. Just works better and it allows people to play it in modern times. That's the thing with the thing. Is that a lot of people don't even know about it because it's one of those games that fell to the wayside and you couldn't play it on modern systems at all anymore. So even if you own the original game or you recently bought it, you couldn't really get it up and running properly on modern systems because it's just too old. And that's the point of these remasters, taking stuff that's a case of people still want to play, but they're so old they cannot run properly, even with emulators and that on modern systems, and just fixing them up so they can. So everyone, they're available to a whole new audience that sort of maybe not have been aware of them or were but can't play them because they're too old. Suddenly, I can play this now.
And credit to Valve, because Valve is a lot of their driving behind this stuff. Like Valve's giving a lot of great tools to allow this stuff to be modernized and emulated, and being able to, again, this is why you see so many of these remasters on Steam. Because Valve is using Proton, because it's basically the framework they use for Steam Deck to get this old stuff emulating. And to their credit, GOG, which is run by CDPR, also do that.
All right, you ready to have some fun with the next one?
Yes.
Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League.
Yeah, again, Suicide Squad, diversity highest.
This was one that Sweet Baby.
This is another Sweet Baby one.
Yes, it was. Anonymous sources detailed a very troubled development, such as managerial bottlenecks and a toxic positivity culture. You'll hear that a few more times throughout this stream. Review codes were withheld from many review outlets before release, which was probably due to the overwhelmingly negative press preview. And this is what we got.
We got gay Joker.
And it was also
and the Fujos were not happy with that.
And it was also the way a lot of the heroes were treated in the game. Flash in particular literally had his corpse pissed on.
Except Wonder Woman, though.
Well, Wonder Woman got the heroic death because, of course, woman. Batman was the one that really wound people up because it was one of Kevin Conroy, may he rest in peace, his last performances. And obviously you've got the whole games as a live service model, which Rocksteady, I don't think have done before, and obviously didn't do a very good job with, given what they had to deal with. And the game ended up losing Warner Brothers $200 million. And
entirely deserved.
Yeah, and Rocksteady's QA team experienced significant layoffs, reducing the headcount by half.
Wait, they had a QA team?
Apparently so. if you can believe it, I had a job to believe it myself.
I'll add to the whole thing with Batman. It's case it was a double whammy of ignoble death, and also she fires a revolver, yet you hear a gun case, a shell casing pop and tinkle on the ground.
Yeah.
Revolvers don't eject the fucking casings! That's the whole point of revolver. It holds the casing.
I mean,
one
Yeah.
of the big whole show-off
But-
animations a lot of games do is flicking the revolver open to empty the casings and
I mean-
reload.
if they'd had a QA team, they might have picked up on that.
Yeah. But it was also the fact that she gives him that little lecture on how he'd harmed the mental health or some bollocks of all the people he'd gone after.
That's the thing. It's like ignoble death. Her running her mouth with that utter bullshit, and they couldn't even get how revolvers work right.
Mm.
But
yes,
my
this
brain.
was one of the games that, of course, brought Sweet Baby Inc. into the light, and people really realised what was going on, because I think also
not just a light. They basically put a state like several hundred stadiums worth of like spotlights on them.
yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, there was something like 17 different writers involved in this game, and when you've got that many, you know there's a problem. So I'm not surprised.
Or
that we had
again,
this
16
debate.
of them are diversity hires.
Well, yeah, but here we go.
One
like I
actually
said.
does the work. The rest of them just rewrite what they've worked on.
Mm-hmm. So the next one, which I get a little confused with this one, and that is, of course, Astrobot. Now,
Astrobot was a cute, fun game, and it swept the Game Awards
yes, it
deservedly
did.
so.
Yeah, but the strange thing is, obviously, I have a PlayStation 5. I wasn't even aware this thing was out. I saw next to no advertising for it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
Sony really didn't push it, and again, this is why Sony really sucks at what they do.
yeah,
It was a cute little fun robot game from a studio in Japan, and again, because it didn't have diversity bullshit in it, Sony was like, meh, and everyone just picked it up going, no, this is just cute and fun, right? This is what people want. They want fun
the agendas.
Yeah.
So this one, it surprised me, and when I actually went to look it up before this stream, there was the promotion for discounted games because of the awards. It wasn't featured in there, and when I looked in the next section of the marketplace, which was just the games nominated, it was there, but it was roughly around halfway down the list. And I just thought, okay, that is...
there is some real butthurt at Sony because, again, people need to remember, Sony Gaming, their headquarters is in California.
Mm-hmm.
That should tell you everything you need to know, right? So, yeah, Sony, I suspect Sony California are very, very butthurt that none of their, woke games are being picked up. And everyone's just like, they're like, look, woke games, everyone's, but cute robot game.
Yeah.
But no, we've got the games they haven't missed. They have a strong independent women, but we just want cute robot game.
Yeah.
Right.
And also to point the whole thing of earlier, we're talking about them sitting on IPs and not using them. Everyone also latched onto it. It's like, oh, they made a little bot of that character from that IP and that IP and that one I love. Oh, it's so cute. I get all these characters I love and I can go find them and rescue them in this cute little game that's just fun.
Yeah. The game sold...
No agenda, no big overarching theme, just fun.
Now, the game has sold almost 2 million units, and as Wombat said, it won multiple awards, including Game of the Year at the main Game Awards.
And holy shit, I guarantee they were salty about that.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're really trying to snuff the studio.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
But because they're in Japan, they're struggling. But I've heard a lot of rumblings that they've already tried to snuff the studio.
Right.
This is from a business point of view, this irritates the shit out of me because you've got a actual successful, again, small team. It's done absolutely gangbusters. I'm like, Sony, why do you hate money? I'm like,
not to mention
you're putting the quote unquote the work.
More.
Yeah, the work before money. I'm like, it tells you everything you need to know. They are ideologically captured to the point that no, we would rather just burn everything down and then actually make money.
And what's dumber is the case of this game works in such a way it's wide open to them including any other IP characters in there. But the catch-22 to that is a case of yes, you can include your woke characters.
Yeah.
But you can't go full bore girl bossing and all this other bullshit with them because it's your little bot that's rescuing them. They have their little moment of like the little animations showing off the character and whatnot, and that's it. They don't talk. They don't do
I
anything
mean,
beyond
to
that.
be fair, honey, they could give the robot robot hair and a side shave.
I wondered if you were going to mention that.
Yeah, give them that haircut. But
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So these next 3 games are bundled together for reasons which will become clear. And the first one, Skull and Bones, Ubisoft game, live service model, and marketed as, and I quote, a quadruple A game to justify. I'll let their laughter tell its own story. To justify the $70 price tag at launch. And apparently this game cost $200 million to make, including subsidies from the Singapore government. Also a very troubled development. And after the mixed reviews, it didn't take the game long to lose a good chunk of its player base.
Yeah, because everyone wanted pirate game. There's actually been a fair bit written about this in the.
It was originally pirate game that people wanted, but then they've got the usual suspects involved, got rewritten, reworked, da, 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 da. Hence why so much fucking money was wasted and nothing to actually show for it in the end. And we went from, oh yes, this is a pirate game, we wanted. What the hell is this sloppy turd? Where's all the stuff we were promised? Where's all the stuff we'd seen in other things? Where's all we've seen all the write-ups, we've seen all the other stuff they showed off of it. What happened to all that stuff?
Yeah. And as you can see, the prices here, you've got 3 different editions. They're still selling. Yeah, I mean, I'm almost at a loss of words. There you go. Add it all to your cart. Almost £90.
Yeah, and again, look at this side. Incorporates third-party DRM, requires Ubisoft account.
Yeah, there you go.
Again,
get fucked. Yeah.
And looking at that stuff in the basic and dollar redo, so the basic game, it's like nearly $90 for Australian for the base game.
No, thank you. Right, and the next one, there's not much of this I can share for reasons which will about to become clear. X-Defiant, another Ubisoft original and another attempt at a live service game. Now, as you can see, I can't share it from I can't share it from Steam or any other place because the game was shut down.
Sunsetted, yes.
Yeah. Its critical response upon launching was meager, but it did reach 8 million players within the week of launch, but those numbers obviously fell to around 20,000.
I am honestly skeptical about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they fell to about 20,000 from what I've seen across all platforms, and the game was shut down in June this year.
Yep, it was sunsetted, starting December 3rd, 2024, yep.
Yeah, and apparently this was blamed on, where is it? Poor management. Really?
Yep. Ubisoft, poor management. Wow. I am shocked. Well, not that shocked.
And it just seems to keep happening. It's just so bizarre that they're making these games that all just die they die as soon as they're released.
Ubisoft has a fundamental problem in the way that the company is structured. It is owned by one French family, the Doulimons.
Oh, really?
Right?
I didn't know that.
Yes, this is the issue, right? Ubisoft is, and basically collectively, they own about 75% of the company. So the problem is that as Ubisoft being managed as badly as it is, there's no way for you can't have you can't have someone come in and buy up Ubisoft, buy up the remaining shares and or at least buy up a significant chunk of the shares to be able to kick out bad management, right?
Yeah.
Because the way that they've got it structured, the Guillemot family owns basically a majority stake in Ubisoft. So even if you were to have like a well-meaning activist investor come in and say, right, we want to stage essentially a board coup and purge the board and put in people who know what the fuck they're doing, they can't. So Ubisoft is doomed. Ubisoft at this point is basically hoping for a buyout. It'll be 10 possibly Tencent, or either Microsoft or Sony, someone to basically come and buy them out.
Yeah. All right, so on to the next one then, and this one I'm going to have another little giggle about because I can't wait to hear the guys' thoughts on this one. Star Wars Outlaws.
Again, another DEI game.
Yeah.
And this highlights the man face issue, right? Because people have seen the actual actress that they use for the mocap, and then they see what makes it to the game. Like, you've made her into a man.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then they look at the lead creative director and the rest of it, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
there's the issue.
yeah.
Many such cases of, you paid this actress to scan her model and whatnot, and then why does it look so much like you?
Yeah. Now the game's problems even began before release because you had the pre-order with the quote-unquote top version costing either $130 or pounds. Launched to a very meh reception because the game is very linear and very scripted. And it offered nothing of real note. It would literally be the same sort of mission structure on each planet you go to. Now, reportedly, it sold 1 million copies in the first month of release, but Ubisoft were forced to admit it did not reach their expected sales target.
Also, extremely skeptical about those numbers for reasons that I'll get into in a sec.
And calling them, and I quote, softer than expected. And before we talk about that, there is one thing I should mention about Extra File, which I forgot to mention before, that around 270 staff were let go from their jobs after the game's closure, with basically a skeleton crew maintaining the game until it was eventually shuttered. So not good for them. But anyway, rip this one to shreds.
So my first one, hang on, Hunt. But the first one is the $1 million, the million sales. Okay, I call bullshit on that. And again, because this is mixture of Ubisoft and Disney, there's I guarantee there's fuckery with the numbers, because what they'll probably be clownting with those millions is you could get this game free if you bought an NVIDIA graphics card or an AMD. It was basically given away. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were including. I guarantee they were including that in their sales. So they would have sold, NVIDIA or an AMD or whatever would have bought, 100,000 licenses or whatever to include to give them away. So I guarantee that was counted in the sales numbers.
I didn't know that.
I would be interested to see actual Steam sales. In fact, you know what? While you're talking, I'm going to quickly look them up on SteamDB and see what SteamDB says.
Okay.
And also, this is another one of those games. It's like, oh, your choices matter. No, they don't. It's no matter which faction you go with and which other ones you peeve off. It does jack shit in the end of the game. It doesn't affect anything.
Well, the bit about this game that made me chuckle when I saw its
okay, so I'm actually looking at SteamDB for it now.
Yeah.
Right, so I look at at peak, all-time peak, this had 2,000 players. Right, it's got 1,000 people playing it right now.
But we got to, obviously, to be fair, we have to mention other consoles that did have this game.
Yeah, but even then, if you take the Steam numbers with a pinch of salt, right, even if you'd be really, really generous and say it had double the players on console, those numbers are really not good.
But the part that made me
big game, that is horrendous.
I mean, what made me chuckle whenever I saw the clips of this game on Twitter, was when she'd do the, and I quote, stealth takedowns of the stormtroopers, because she'd tap them on the shoulder to spin them around and then smack them on the helmet with her bare fist. And I'm looking at her going, surely that would break her fucking knuckles doing that. And it was also funny the way that these stormtroopers, hang on a minute, you were funny because not only would they turn around so absentmindedly, but they'd also drop their guns straight away. And I thought, that's just really bizarre.
Yeah, again, stormtroopers being bad at their job is a meme, but jeez.
But that's just a whole nother level of incompetency. The fact that they basically have the whole, someone tapped me on the shoulder. Derp. It's like, okay, the running joke is they can't shoot for shit and they're kind of useless, but give a guy some credit.
Yeah. So there was moments like that where I just thought, I'm not... I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being sexist.
Well, here's the other thing, right? Ubisoft make the Far Cry games.
Yes.
The Far Cry, they could have just reused takedown assets from Far Cry games, right? Where they've got that code, right?
Mhm.
Literally, you could do that in Far Cry games where you sneak up behind someone, you put them in a choke, tap them on the shoulder, put them in a chokehold, etc. They've had that for decades, so they
Mhm.
couldn't just go and use that source code,
Mhm.
Or, if
right?
they're going to do the whole beat them in the head, like use the butt of a knife or your gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Save your hand and actually rattle their brains enough to, give you a chance to grab them and tackle them down.
Mhm.
Versus, I'm going to literally punch with my bare fist into a solid metal helmet.
Use the butt of a blaster,
Mm.
right? The
Again,
character has
the
a butt.
gun, a knife, anything. Just to
There was also
basically dong
issues.
them on the head hard enough
Yeah.
to basically stun them. Then do your whole grapple takedown bullshittery,
Yeah.
which even then a
But
woman
there was
first size
also
would be able to do.
also massive issues with the AI where you could literally just hide in a bush,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, the AI's like, where'd they go? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is one of those times where I'm glad I'm not a fan of things like Star Wars or modern gaming, so that I didn't get burned by this one. Right. And then to a game which apparently many see as a sleeper hit of this year, and that was Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
yeah.
Just again, I remember a lot of complaining from the usual suspects, but Unicorn Overlord was fun.
Yeah. No. Again, it sold 1 million copies by September, with most of them being on the Switch, which is good because the Switch does need games. And it even won an award for excellence at the Japanese Game Awards this year. And I like seeing stuff like this because little games like this, they deserve all the attention they should get. So
yeah, again, it seems to be the really good games are coming out of these small studios because
I mean, look at this animation. I love this.
Yeah. And the art style's fantastic. And said
Absolutely.
it's because the AAAs have got a problem, and it's a shame that Shiba's not here. Because he was talking about this on Twitter, but I've actually seen this firsthand when I worked in the VFX industry. It was how VFX studios died.
Yeah.
Right. So they have a scaling problem. You can only ever scale up. So, for example, for the VFX studios, they would get a new piece of work, doing VFX for a movie scene or whatever. They'd get a whole heap of new tools and software, and scale up the render farm to be able to do that piece of work.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is that once you've scaled up, you have then, I'll go into a little bit of business nerd stuff for people. So in business, broadly speaking, you have two types of cost. You have OPEX and CAPEX.
Yeah.
OPEX is operational expenditure. That is the ongoing, keeping things running expenditure. CAPEX is, I'm going to do an upgrade, right? And the whole point with CAPEX is you're upgrading your business in such a way that you will bring in more money.
Yeah.
So what happens is these studios will go on a CAPEX binge, and they will upgrade, and they'll bring in all these new people, and all these new tools, and everything else. But unless they can continue but the problem is when you do CAPEX, your OPEX is going to go up as well because you've got to maintain that stuff. So the problem is that if you go too far up and you're not consistently bringing in the money to pay for that OPEX, it's slow death. And I saw that happened a lot in the 2000s and the 2010s, and that's when I was working in the industry. And seeing it, and it's why you're seeing it now with game studios, is you're going to have a lot of consolidation and game studios getting bought up or going bust because this is what's happened. And Ubisoft is a classic example of that.
Yeah. Before we move on, though, I will pay attention to this lovely collector's edition, which I wasn't aware of, because obviously art books and soundtracks are a pretty much given thing, but to have this card game thrown in with it, I think that's great. I want to see more of that. Probably won't get it, but it would be nice to see more of.
Well, you won't get it from Western Studios, brother.
No. All right. So on to the next one, which I can say a lot about because I bought this game. Stellar Blade.
Giggity.
Yeah. Now,
the 2 again, I'm almost tempted to buy this just for the 2B upgrade.
Well, obviously much fuss was made over this because shock horror, the female characters are all very good looking. And
see, it was interesting around. Yeah, I'll let you finish this blurb, but yeah, it was interesting what happened.
Yeah, because you had the usual suspects, and I think it was IGN France that literally wrote an article accusing the developers of, and I quote, not knowing what a woman looked like.
And then it came out that like the lead art designer is like, and have you seen the lead art designer? She's hot.
Well, that, and it was also a Korean model's body that was scanned into the computer for the main character, which obviously made some people look stupid.
Well, it also added to the whole uglification argument in the West. Hang on, and this argument came up with, people were going, hang on, they've been doing body capture for decades, and it didn't get ugly until recently. And you're going, well, no, hang on, the Koreans seem to be able to get it right. Asian studios can get it right. Why
I can add to that.
Why are the Western studios having such a problem making realistic women? Because the Western studios, that's just the way that capture works, and everyone's like, nah.
Fuck off. Yeah.
Oh, they also tried to use the whole, it's so hard to model a pretty face, and like, her body is a scan. Her face isn't. Her face is literally, they've gone through a whole heap of features of various women and modeled together features they found that homogenized into a comfortably attractive, unique face.
Yeah.
Oh, that, and I always loved it when they made that argument, and then people on Twitter in like 5 minutes in Photoshop just going, no, look what I can do in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and having done modeling myself, even like really basic stuff way back in the early 2000s, like it's easier to model a nice looking face than it is to model one that's sort of off.
Yeah.
Because your own brain, like I was taught, you have to work against your own brain, because your own brain's got a certain way it wants to do things.
Yeah.
And your own inner eye is basically going, because I was modeling from photos of an average guy to learn to build a face. And our teacher kept hanging over our shoulders going, no, you stick to how the photo looks. Don't let your own mind take over, an artistic mind take over and try to correct some things about him, like the shape of his nose or the slight asymmetry of his eyes and whatnot. No, stick to it. You're modeling that person's face, not what's in your mind.
And this goes back
actually was harder to model him correctly versus, correcting some minor things with him to make him look better.
And this goes back to my point. If they need to stop letting people with a perceptual processing disorder work on their artwork, because again, from what Peter just described, that's exactly what's happening. They're not modeling the character. They're letting their own inner eye take in, and we look at what happened. And you can see what happens.
Yeah, and the game was even patched on day one to remove, and I quote, some of the sexiness from it, probably down to Sony. But one of the examples I saw was I don't know what you call it, the patch of fabric that's put across an outfit to cover the cleavage.
Just call it what it is, the boob plate.
Yeah, the boob plate.
Yeah, the chest plate. Yeah.
And you just see anything really, but it is what it is.
I just find it funny that when they did the crossover with 2B, I can see that the studio got their comeuppance to say, oh, you're going to make us do that? Yeah, no, we're going to make 2B extra sexy.
Yeah.
The studio heads for both for Stellar Blade and the guy who created 2B in that, it's just like they are really good friends. And they were doing the whole, it's just like, she's kind of gone, can I put 2B in my game? It's like, yeah, sure, as long as you make her sexy. It's like, I'll make her even sexier. Like, you think she's hot now? Oh, man.
Yeah. Yoko Taro and the head of the studio for Stellar Blade are very good friends IRL. So
now, like I said, I bought the game and I've played a small part of it. It's okay. It's basic third person running around hacking at things with a sword, blocking attacks, blah blah blah. It's nothing that I think
gameplay wasn't exactly revolutionary.
I don't think it would be anything totally memorable for gameplay, but with the sexiness aspect of it, I think it will probably live on as some sort of middle finger to those who
I think that was a lot of what as much as people were buying it essentially as a protest buy in a lot of cases. People were buying it like, no, I actually want to check this out. Because it's like, the usual suspects hate it. Wow, well, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's where is it? It did sales wise, it sold 1 million copies by June. So fair play to him in that respect. But then one of the other big releases this year was Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah, see, I'm going to be a contrarian on this one.
Go on.
Well, everyone was saying, it did massive numbers. I'm like, okay, show me the sales numbers outside of China. I mean, I get it, and,
Yes.
right? So this was always the thing, right? I guarantee it did numbers in China and Asia because it is, based off a lot of their mythology. If anyone's
Mhm.
seen the old monkey stuff, it's a journey to the West, right? It is really just drawing heavily on mythology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fact that this was done by a Chinese studio,
Yep.
I'm like, were people just social credit grinding? And I hate that I have to be that skeptical. I mean, again, I've seen a lot of people play it, and it does actually genuinely look like a fun game.
Yeah.
However, I want to see the sales numbers outside of China.
Well, from what I looked into on this, on day one on Steam, it had 1.8 million players, making it one of the top 6 played on that platform. And it peaked at, I think it was 2,415,000 players. And if these figures are to be correct, it sold around 20 million units.
I mean, I've said I'm not going to knock it for what it is.
No?
Again, I just want to be able to say, like, okay, because
Wow.
again, I didn't see a huge amount about this in the West,
No.
right? And people going, oh, it's, like, yeah, again, and the thing is, if it just happens to be an Asian market thing, great. Again, wonderful. People
Yeah.
want to enjoy it. It's just, yeah.
Also, like to add to the whole more proof point that a lot of those sales were in China, since the Game Awards and that BG3 won big and won out over top of Black Myth Wukong, it's funny, people are noticing a lot that it's suddenly getting a lot of review bombing, and when they're checking where the review bombing is coming from, it's coming from China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there just might be a bit of nationalism in that, just going, no, China is best, China, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, shut up, West Taiwan.
All right. And on to the next one, which I know someone's going to have a chuckle at because I'd forgotten about this game until I was reminded. Dustborn.
I think everyone forgot about this game, and basically the only reason people acknowledge this game is to laugh at it.
Yeah.
I think at this point, everyone just wants to scrub its existence from their mind.
Yeah.
So they've got one less thing there to try and bleach out.
Now, according to the DEI Detected website, which is an offshoot of obviously the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, this game was consulted on by, and I quote, internal consultants.
Yeah, no one's buying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the game only ever managed a peak of 83 players on Steam. And one gaming review outlet called the game sales apparently modest.
It's being very diplomatic.
Yeah, and I have a hard time with this because if you look at the reviews and the reviews on Steam, they're mostly positive.
Yeah, because it's getting review bombed. It's getting review buffed. I'm not going to call it bombed. I'm going to call it buffed.
Yeah.
And yes, as one of the people in our chat pointed out, yeah, this was developed with government money from EU. Again, Archcast brought this up because again, his tax dollars paid for this.
Yeah.
It was one of those games that was basically we have them in Australia as well, where you can get games that you can get funding to make games. But
there's a reason why you never hear of those games.
Yeah.
Because they're just like this. They're so fucking terrible, they never sell.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
they're very diverse.
A representative of the game was interviewed by PSU following the release of the game's trailer and confirmed that the game was spawned out of protest of Donald Trump being elected president in 2016.
Oh, again, Trump derangement syndrome strikes again.
Yeah.
And that was like 2016, and it was released when? How many years down the line when he'd already basically been ousted as president? And he's back in now for a very good reason. But the majority of the time you were developing this, he wasn't even fucking president.
Yep.
Living in their heads rent free.
Yeah. All right. So this next one, this is going to be fun. Yeah, is similar to what I've just shared regarding X Defiant. Concord.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Sony.
Right.
Oh, I can hear the echoing of the diarrhea level sharting from here.
Yeah. And as was also reported on the DEI Detective website, also consulted on by internal consultants. Make of that what you will.
Again, everyone's calling bullshit on that because the quote-unquote internal consultants also work for Sweet Baby Inc.
Yeah.
right? So it's internal consultants, like they weren't working for at the time, right? But again, it's stop it. No one's buying that.
Yeah. So developed over 8 years on a $400 million budget. The game experienced, and I quote, unprecedentedly low sales for a game of its size, and was shut down 2 weeks after launch.
And everyone was refunded, and everyone laughed.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those ones where Sony's like, we need an online service shooter. And again, if you go back to the original days of the Concord art, if the stuff's still on the net, again, the characters look good. And then the diversity consultants got involved. And I want to go back to this toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Right. So in business, you get, again, this is a psychological phenomenon. It's generally called groupthink. I call it hug box syndrome.
Yeah.
Where you get it when no one can have any sort of bad opinion, even if it is legitimate, well-structured criticism, saying, hey, this may not be the best thing to do. Can we look at other ways? Yeah. If you have it where you cannot have anything but good things to say about a project, those projects go horribly off the rails.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because you literally put me to the punch here, because apparently workplace positivity was in play here as well. And this was accompanied by a belief that the game was impossible for it to fail, and all critical feedback was apparently ignored.
Yeah, see, again, I'm going to adopt the Thanos level project management, which is balance in all things, right? So again, you can have such a thing as too much positivity. You can also have such a thing as too much negativity. Too much positivity because it's so toxic. Again, it's just like, there's nothing wrong. It's fine. It can't fail. It's going to be game of the century, right? And again, I'm like, people would have been raising legitimate criticisms of it and going, hey, like, maybe we want to rethink this. And the problem is, those people, if you've got a quote-unquote toxic positivity studio, those people will be pushed out, or they will leave because they can see what's coming, right? Or they will just end up being so frustrated, like, because they actually want to do a good job, and they're not being allowed to do their job, they'll just leave, right? And you just end up with another thing called the Dead Sea effect.
Yeah.
So all the good talent evaporates, and you're just left with the salty retards.
Yeah. And finally, on this game, it apparently didn't even exceed 700 players on Steam.
Yep, and I'm skeptical even because you get people who got it as part of buying a video card for free, and you see the comments is like, I got this for free and I still feel like I deserve a refund. It's that bad.
Now, I was reading the reviews back a bit, and I think at the time that it was something like 17 or so.
Yeah.
And because of the way Steam works, if you got the game for free, it does list next to your name and marks off to say that you either got this for some promotion or for free.
Yeah.
And of those 17, I think it was like 11 or 12 of them had that free marker on them, and every single one of them was like, I got this for free. I didn't even know what it was. I decided to have a look. How can I return this?
So those were two games that we talked about, which were featured on the DEI Detected site as ones released this year. We're about to talk about another one. This one's fairly recent release. Dragon Age: The Veilguard. All right. Again,
we want to be BG3 but diverse.
Yeah. Now, also apparently, according to the website, it consulted on and by a quote internal consultants.
Yeah. So funnily enough, this is the thing. They have changed. They have gone back and memory hold this stuff because they've changed it from Sweet Baby Inc. etc. to internal consultant, and everyone's just like, no, we see what you're doing. You're not slick, right? You're now trying to hide this stuff because you know it's sales poison. We're not stupid, dude.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this game came out after a lengthy delay, which included BioWare laying off 50 people from the development team, including Mary Kirby, who was one of the series' original writers. And
I guarantee that Mary went, "This is stupid. Why would character wouldn't do this?" She was trying to produce decent writing, and she got pushed out, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And 7 of the staff let go sued BioWare for additional compensation because, due to the company's NDA, they couldn't put the game in their portfolio. Yeah, I mean, the warning signs were there with this one because even the game's director has a profile on Threads where she lists herself as, and I quote, a queer sexual gendermancer.
Oh god, that hurts me just
Yeah.
hearing that.
And she has
Oh.
trans rights and BLM in her bio.
Yep.
And it was also revealed that Laura K. Buzz would
Oh,
work
Laura K.
on the-
Dale.
yeah,
But yeah.
had worked on the game as a writer.
Yep.
And the dialogue that was showcased, including some of the gender identity stuff where the character does push-ups after misgendering someone, was just so cringeworthy.
Yep. I have nothing but scorn for Laura K. Dale, mainly
Yeah.
because of what happened after when Total Biscuit died.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, Biscuit is later, towards the end of his life, unfortunately, was a bit brain screwed because of chemotherapy. If anyone's dealt with anyone who's been through cancer, chemotherapy, and the guy was literally dying.
It's chemotherapy, and also the fact the cancer was literally riddled through his body into his brain, and you can't fault someone with that stage, because I've dealt with family members who've had cancer go to those stages, and unfortunately a lot of who they were starts to fade, and they just turn into an angry mess because they're constantly in pain, they're constantly sick, and they're literally breaking down in front of you.
But and the fact that LKD was shitting on TB after he passed away, like it's just again, I got nothing but scorn for likes of LKD, Stephanie, whatever Jim Quisition's calling himself these days.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So
but
the fact that they were all involved, and the thing is, I've got people I know who were fans of the original Dragon Age games. And then they've just seen what's happened, like the last, the one, because the one before this was showing all the signs as well.
Yeah.
So that all the fans who saw it coming, going, we knew what was coming. We're not shocked.
Yeah, that one had severe butterface going on with several characters, as well as a severe problem with it. I don't know what shaders they were using, but god damn, did everyone look sweaty and greasy.
Right, and on to the last one to feature in the consulting pack, if you will, and this one boggles my mind, and it's the Silent Hill 2 remake. Now, according to the pre-mentioned website, a DI consultant, Hit Detection, consulted on the game, and by the looks of things, it was down to the toning down of women's looks, as you can see in this video bit here. But on the plus side, those that have played this game have absolutely loved it, as you can see in the reviews, finding it very faithful to the original.
Yeah, it was more of again, you had the consultants in just, the evil murderous nurses are too sexy.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
There's a reason for that in the story,
problem. Though. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, again, this DI shit is always terrible for games, because you have actually interesting, stories with nuance and depth will get destroyed every time, because anything that involves, adult themes, as they say, nuance and depth, that lot will find quote unquote problematic, and they will have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even stuff with the case of it's like this for story reasons, not just because someone wanted to get their jollies off looking at something. Oh, it's so hot and sexy. Oh, it's naughty. No, it has a story reason for it.
Yeah.
And people getting off to the nurses, I'm like, okay, you need help.
Now, I should point out that within 4 days of release, the game had sold over 1 million copies, making it the fastest-selling entry in the series. It's on my list of games to play, but because I'm a tight bastard, I don't want to pay full price, so I'm just waiting for a sale.
Yeah, and again, this is nostalgia stuff as well, but
this falls
in. I mean, again, for me, this is sort of the middle. It's like, okay, they did a re-release, and for me, I'm like, okay, it's slightly negative because you did mess with it with diversity shit, but for the most part, I'm like, it's a cash grab, and but it's not. It's not bad. It's just it exists. It's not my thing.
All right. So we'll finish on a good note for game releases before we have our little debate. And I know that we couldn't ignore this if we wanted to. And that's
hang on. There is one. Well, the Space Marine stuff, but I actually want to bring up one that came out this year is BG3.
BG3.
and Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
That was this year?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I missed that.
It was start of the year.
Was it start of the year? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's beginning of the year.
Well,
Right?
it technically came out. It technically had its testing demos come out last year when they were testing the waters and getting people to tell them what they liked and didn't like with some of the character designs and initial ideas they had. But it wasn't the full release. It came full release like start of this year.
We can talk about it, but according to the Steam page, which I'll share now, it was actually out August last year.
Okay. I mainly want to talk about it because, again, you had a lot of fuckery by Wizards of the Coast, right? And Wizards of the Coast is in my 2025 Deadpool. I hopefully elongated muskrat buys them, and that'll just be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it has now come out now that Larian Art Studios like pretty much out of their NDAs. They've been coming out with all the additional stuff they wanted to do that Wizards basically said no to, and that's why they parted ways with Wizards. They just because Wizards insisted that they fire all their staff, right? Because hey, you finished with the project, and Larian being I think a Swedish studio, I know it's a Nordic studio. They went no. We've actually worked long and hard to cultivate this human capital. We're keeping them. We don't want to fire them just so you can make more profit.
Yeah.
Right. Because
we also had you come swinging your dicks. And there was also a case of they straight up said to them, "It's like, oh no, we want to come in swinging our dicks and dictate who you hire, and basically start making recommendations."
So Wizards tried
we don't do that.
Yeah, Wizards tried to basically do a diversity on Larian Studios, right? And Larian Studios went no, because Larian Studios got popular. Wizards have basically sort of said, "Oh, we would have come in dick swinging and forced the diversity." And again, we got robbed of DLC where we could have had literally going to hell to rescue Best Girl. Right, Karlak is Best Girl. I will fight anyone in real life who says otherwise.
Okay.
But you could have literally had, we get to go to the 9 hells to rescue Karlak. Right, so there was a whole heap of stuff, but Larian, as a kind of fuck you to Wizards on the way out, actually released all the modding tools they said they were going to release. So people can now just make their own D&D game in that setting.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Okay. But no, and then so I said BG3 was a fun game.
All right. So then, obviously, now to talk about Space Marine 2
for the Emperor.
I mean. What a game. I love this shit. I really do. I got this from my son because he wanted to play it before his brother did. And I always remember saying to him, what weapons have you got at the minute? And he said the bolter pistol. And he goes, and the chainsword. I love the chainsword. And it wasn't
satisfying.
Oh, it is. And the gameplay is so fun. I mean, combat is fantastic, especially when you do the finishers. Well played, guys. It was a fantastic game.
And again, this is what happens when you give people to work on the IP who genuinely love and respect the source material. They will produce good games.
Yeah.
Right.
It reached, by the end of November, it had reached 5 million players. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, looking at this footage, I've had a good time. I haven't got all the way through it yet, but I have had a very good time with it. I haven't bought the season pass because I don't play online, but I got it from my son, and he's enjoyed himself immensely with it. And it's also funny watching the customizations of the online armor, because I saw one clip where a guy had done his armor to like Buzz Lightyear, which I thought was hilarious.
That's gold. Love it.
But man, this is fantastic. It is utterly fantastic.
But again, games like this just illustrate the point: is that fantastic games are possible when you get the right people who have the the passion to work on it and who don't actively hate the audience. Right. So again, as consumers, the best thing we can do is vote with our wallet. Don't buy on day one. Don't pre-order. And if it's wait to see what people say. If it's a really good game, go for it.
So well done to the guys that made this game. I wish we just had more games like this, but unfortunately,
well, there's some promising stuff on the horizon. Someone did mention one that was referenced in the hinted at the Game Awards yesterday. Again, there's some good stuff potentially coming out in 2025. Where is it? Steel Hunters.
Yeah.
Giant stompy mech battles, which is going to be fun. I just wish Hollywood wasn't so annoying, because I would love to see giant mechs versus giant kaiju game done properly by people who actually like it.
Yeah.
It's never getting a Titanfall 3.
Well, these guys basically looked at Titanfall and went, we're going to do that, but properly, right? So, Steel Hunters is going to be the Titanfall 3 that we
should have
got.
Yeah. So to finish off this stream, there was a little debate, the state of the gaming industry going forward. I myself, I have a PS5, but I scarcely touch it these days because nothing out there really appeals to me.
Not like there's any games for it.
Yeah, I can't say as I'll be buying any more PlayStations going forward. And if this Steam console, if this Steam console becomes a thing, I know I'll pick it up. But I have my doubts that we'll have a lot of the companies that are about going forward because of many.
2025 is going to be a consolidation year, and I think you're going to start seeing that in January.
Yeah.
It's going to be, now that debt is no longer cheap.
No.
You're going to see, it's going to be AAA Deadpool in 2025. So studios are either going to be bought up, shut down, or bought up and shut down.
Yeah.
Right? And in some respects, it's a tragedy, but it's not a good thing in a lot of respects, because the people who are going to be buying them up are going to be Sony, Microsoft, and Tencent. There are no good actors in that story.
No.
Right. So, but this is kind of what has to happen. And then eventually, what it's going to be is the smaller studios are going to fill that gap, because they can be much more responsive and agile and they can just pull out stuff. They can put out stuff, quicker.
Yeah, but there's also the general fear that, because I think this was talked about during the Xbox shutter of so many studios, because the ones that they've got left, apparently a lot of the staff in these studios were fearful of being closed down if their game didn't make, and I quote, Call of Duty numbers.
Yeah, that basically Microsoft and this is the other problem, is the big studios are looking for ridiculously high ROI, return on investment. Right.
Which is not something that's available anymore.
No.
Yeah. Because again, this goes back to that OPEX, CAPEX scaling problem.
Mm-hmm.
They need those ridiculous numbers to keep things going, right? To keep making profit, to keep justifying themselves.
Yeah.
So, and smaller studios don't have that problem, right? They're actually quite lean, and really good studios will be quite aggressive about controlling their CAPEX and OPEX, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to see the big Leviathan studios, just the big dinosaurs just lumbering along. And then you're going to have the smaller mammal studios filling the gap.
Yeah.
So,
but there's also how many live service games have failed this year alone because people are not willing to commit the time nor the money to such games.
It's a combination of that, plus none of them are worth the money and time.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you make a game doesn't mean anyone has to buy it. And these games, especially these live service ones, every single one of them has been a big fail because none of them have anything that's worth playing for.
See, my counterpoint to that is live service games can work, right? World of Warcraft was proof of that. World of Warcraft was a subscription game that, again, I played for many, many years and was happy to pay $14 a month to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Problem was that when WoW went generic and they took away any sense of achievement, and it just became grind the dailies and, just incentivizing, just logging on once a day to do the thing.
Yeah.
I just completely lost me. But this is the thing. A quality game, you can have a subscription service game that, people will be happy to pay for.
Yeah.
The problem is it has to be polished and it has to have a mechanic that people are going, yes, that is going to keep me coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not just do the daily.
Yeah.
And so that's my point. It's like these ones, case it has to be worth my time, worth my effort, but primarily worth my time. Why am I investing my time in this game?
Yeah.
What am I getting out of it? What entertainment am I getting out of this? And so many of these new ones is like your generic slop. You're not giving me anything that's worth my time. You're not giving me anything that's really entertaining. You're giving me frustration.
Yeah.
And again, studios need to realize what they're not competing for people's money anymore.
No.
They're competing for people's time.
Yeah.
Right? Again, if people have limited time, they're working, they have other commitments, if they're going to spend time gaming, they want that time to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, because also one factor in this, which I think people forget about for a PC owner, they could just go find a game in their Steam library because you guys tend to hoard those games.
I feel attacked.
That's-
I'm feeling very
but that's
called
the
out right
reason
now.
for Steam.
Yeah.
That's as much of a running joke as it is. It's also
Yeah.
a reason for Steam. It's a case of, oh well, I've got so many games in my backlog that I can go back to and play whatever I want. What are you bringing here that
Yes.
I should dedicate my attention to versus just me just going back through what I have?
Yeah. So-
What's new? Why am I forking out money and my time for your game?
Mm-hmm.
Aside from, oh, but it's new, it's shiny, okay, and
Yeah.
what's it about? What am I getting from this, and what's the progression like? And oh, it's just like another lot of like the samey slop that's got nothing new. It's actually boring as piss, as frustrating as all hell, unless you pay the big bucks to get all the shinies.
Yeah.
No, I'll give my time to other stuff that's actually worth my time.
So where do you guys think we go from here? Because I'm reminded of that saying you folks have over there. You've got to burn the bush to kill the weeds.
Yeah, it's pretty much what's going to be happening in 2025. You're going to see massive consolidation. So you're going to see these, a lot of these studios are going to get bought up by the big three.
Yeah.
If Valve manages to actually release their console, Sony's just going to get absolutely spanked. It just depends on when when Valve actually releases. I predict Valve, if they're going to release, it'll be late. There's only rumors at the moment, so I'm going to be conservative. I'm saying it'll be 2026 or probably early 2027 that you'll see a Valve console at the soonest.
Yeah.
But when that happens, Sony's screwed, right? There's really no reason for anyone to buy a console, for a Sony console, and there'd be no reason for studios to develop for it. But yeah, we're just going to see a lot of consolidation. You're going to see a lot of AA studios again with the AAAs putting out crap.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of AAs filling the void. And again, it's just going to be word of mouth. People are going to go, hey, this game's really good. You'll see these games being played by VTubers, right? So VTubers have sort of been that thing where, people are paying more attention to them. Because I actually did see an article from my local ABC that sort of with someone going, oh, the death of gaming journalism, you need us. And they brought up stuff like Goose Simulator and because that's an Australian game and Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, without us, these games won't succeed. I'm like, sweetie, they succeeded without you long ago. Shut up, get back in your box.
Yeah, because
they do not need you.
I believe it was this very day of this stream, IGN did lose a number of staff.
And again, it's end of financial year, so a lot of companies just doing the numbers and just going, yeah, get out.
And also, it's like those games I was carrying on about. It's like they succeeded despite you.
Yeah, we didn't give them it, so they still succeeded. Again, Hollow Knight, you can look at sales for that. That did fantastic numbers, right? It's like, shut up and get back in your box. No, it's no one needs you. Go away. And again, because you had one of the IGN guys on Twitter going, oh, we're down to 40 people. And people are going, well, that's 40 too many. Please sack. We do not need you.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Also, on that point of Australian games, is one I've playing on the regular Dinkum, made by one guy.
Yeah.
It is insanely successful that he's actually got other game studios approaching him to do crossovers with him. And no media said peep about that. It was all word of mouth and his own bit of advertising for himself and just showing his game as it was developing. And he's basically got more success than he could ever have imagined. Despite the games journalists, despite the Australian games journal lot. And like, yeah, you lot didn't even know he exists and you wouldn't even sniff in his direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what worth are you?
What exactly do you do here?
Yeah, what's the point of view? You lot do the opposite more often than not. You fluff up games that are absolute dog shit, and you cock your leg and take a giant piss on those who are actually good.
Or you snitch to your diversity mate friends who immediately then try and do a shakedown. Go, nice game you've got there. Shame if someone were to call it sexist and racist. So no, I guess a games journalist will not be missed.
No, because even when I look for a review or whatever, I'll go on YouTube because I want to see how a game looks and how it plays.
That's what I said earlier. It's like if you want real honesty when it comes to is a game worth your time and money these days, look online, look to the people you already follow, but also look at reviews of those you don't, that maybe you not particularly like that person, but still look at their review to make
Yeah.
sure you're getting as many versatile as opinions as you can to make a decision, because
Yeah.
some people will just jump on, like some people's case of, oh, I'm going to like this regardless, but you
Mhm.
need it from outside perspectives. Also, people, it's like, might not be my genre, might not be my kind of game, but I'm giving it a good go, and I'll be giving honest review.
Yeah.
And that says more about, like, you get a better idea if a game's worth your time and worth your money from those people than anything to do with these journalists
Yeah.
fuckwits. And hence why they're squealing and pissing and trying to basically get these people kicked off the YouTube and whatnot, because how dare they how dare they fork out their own money versus being handed these games all the time
Yeah.
and honestly review them.
How dare the plebs have opinions?
Yeah, because one of the channels I watch is obviously the Worthabyte channel, and he had said that for a long time most companies would not give him codes because of how bad he shat on the games. But he actually got a code for Space Marine 2 and was quite surprised, and he has obviously given it a glowing review because of how great it is.
And it's like, and a lot of the guys I follow is like, yes, they get given like demo copies or review copies, but they also will fork out for themselves to buy the games, so they can freely say, I was not given this, I freely forked out the money for this, so I'm gonna, it's like, and either way, it's like, I will give you my best review I can based on my own likes and how the game plays.
Yeah.
And there's been ones where it's a case of, yeah, I've been given this to review, I'll be blatant to say that this is not really my kind of game, but I'll give it a good go and I'll review it as best I can.
All right. Well, mark that the end of this stream. I'd like to thank everyone who turned up to give it a listen, either live or in the replay. And thanks very much, obviously, to Peter and Wombat for joining me on this return. It's nice to do this again. I've missed this. And we'll see you shortly for when we come back to stream about the comics of this year. And then, of course, about the movies and TV of this year, which I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. All right. For now, though, take care, everybody. We'll see you soon, okay? Bye-bye for now.